Hi, I'm Olivia Martinez, and this is the story of how my mother-in-law's dream vacation turned into her worst nightmare. Sometimes, the people you underestimate aren't as powerless as you think. I met David Anderson while working as a barista at a coffee shop, all while pursuing my master's degree in business. He stood out from the other wealthy customers, kind, genuine, and never making me feel inferior because I was serving coffee. When we fell in love, I thought I'd found my fairy tale ending. Little did I know his mother, Eleanor, would make it her mission to break us up. Eleanor Anderson wasn't just rich. She had old money, the kind that considered anything less than a private jet as beneath her. From day one, she made it clear that a coffee girl wasn't welcome in the Anderson family. "Darling," she'd say to David in my presence, "remember the Rothschild girl? She just returned from Paris, still single." But David stood by me, and we married in a simple ceremony that Eleanor deemed embarrassingly quaint. For 3 years, I endured her constant belittling. At every family gathering, she'd make subtle digs about my background. "Oh, Olivia, dear, is that dress from a department store?" Or, "How fascinating that you used to serve coffee. It must be nice to never have to work again." What Eleanor didn't know was that while making coffee and studying, I'd been investing in cryptocurrency since its early days. Those investments had grown into a fortune that would make even the Andersons look middle class. But I kept quiet, living simply and reinvesting my profits. David knew about my wealth and respected my wish to keep it private. The breaking point came during the planning of the annual Anderson family vacation. Every year, Eleanor organized an extravagant trip for the entire extended family, a tradition she used to showcase her wealth and control. This year's planning dinner was at Eleanor's mansion. As everyone gathered in her opulent dining room, she unveiled her grand plan. "I've arranged something special this year," she announced, practically glowing with self-importance. "I've booked the entire Royal Pearl Island resort for 2 weeks private beaches, personal chefs, helicopter tours, only the best for the Andersons." The family appropriately oohed and ahed. Royal Pearl was one of the most exclusive private island resorts in the Maldives, usually reserved years in advance. Now, Eleanor continued, her eyes fixing on me with familiar disdain, about the guest list. "Given the exclusive nature of this vacation, we need to maintain certain standards." I knew what was coming even before she said, "Olivia, dear," with false sweetness, "I'm sure you understand that this sort of vacation requires a certain refinement. Perhaps it would be better if you sat this one out. These luxury resorts can be so overwhelming for someone of your background." David immediately protested, "Mother, if Olivia's not going, I'm not going either." Eleanor's expression hardened. "Don't be ridiculous, David. The whole family will be there. Your cousins are flying in from Europe. You can't miss it just because your wife isn't comfortable in luxury settings." David's sister, Charlotte, chimed in. "She's right, David. Olivia would feel so out of place. Remember how embarrassed she looked at the yacht club last summer?" I gently touched David's arm. "It's okay," I said quietly. "You should go with your family." I could see Eleanor's triumphant smile, thinking she'd won. What she didn't know was that I'd been making some arrangements of my own. 6 months ago, when I heard Eleanor talking about booking Royal Pearl Island, I made a few calls. The resort was struggling financially due to the economic downturn, and its owner was open to a discreet buyout. Through a series of shell companies, I acquired not just the Royal Pearl Resort, but the entire island. I kept the previous management in place, knowing this day would come. The next morning, as the Andersons boarded their private jet to the Maldives, I made another call. It was time to set my plan in motion. Eleanor had no idea that her perfect vacation was about to teach her an unforgettable lesson about judging people by appearances. As their plane took off, I sat in my home office watching the resort security feeds on my laptop. In just a few hours, they would land in paradise, only to discover that paradise belonged to the coffee girl they'd left behind. I smiled as I picked up the phone to call the resort manager. It was time for phase 2 of my plan. The Anderson family arrived at Royal Pearl Island Resort late that afternoon. Eleanor led the group through the pristine, white sand beaches toward the luxury villas, already plotting how she'd share this exclusive experience on social media to make her society friends envious. "Welcome to Royal Pearl Island," the resort manager, James, greeted them with a knowing smile. "We've been expecting you." Eleanor beamed. "Everything looks perfect. I assume the presidential villa is ready for me?" "About that," James replied, checking his tablet. "There seems to be a slight change in arrangements. The owner is currently using the presidential villa." Eleanor's perfectly maintained face crumpled in confusion. "That's impossible. I specifically booked the entire island. No other guests were supposed to be here." "The owner isn't a guest, Mrs. Anderson. They own the property and have the final say over all accommodations." "Well, who is this owner? I demand to speak with them." Eleanor's voice rose, causing other family members to gather around. James smiled politely. "Of course. If you'll all follow me to the main pavilion, the owner has left specific instructions for your arrival." The family was led to an elegant open-air pavilion overlooking the ocean. A video started playing on a large screen. My face appeared, and I watched through the security feeds as Eleanor's jaw dropped. "Hello, Anderson family," my recorded self said warmly. "Welcome to my island. Yes, you heard that right. I own Royal Pearl Island Resort, along with several other luxury properties worldwide." Eleanor gasped, breaking the stunned silence. David tried to suppress a smile, knowing this moment was coming. "You see," I continued on screen, "while you were busy judging me for making coffee and assuming I couldn't afford luxury experiences, I was building an empire. That coffee girl you left behind is now worth more than the entire Anderson fortune combined." Eleanor collapsed into a chair, her designer purse falling to the floor. Charlotte's face turned an interesting shade of green. "Now, about your accommodations. Eleanor, you'll be staying in our economy villa. It's quite basic by your standards. But as you said, some people need to learn their place. The rest of the family can choose from our standard rooms." "This is outrageous!" Eleanor shrieked. "I paid for the presidential villa." "Your deposit has been refunded," James informed her smoothly. "The owner's decision is final." The video continued. "Oh, and Eleanor, remember how you said luxury resorts can be overwhelming for someone of my background? Let's test that theory. I've arranged for you to work as a server at the beach bar during your stay. Consider it a learning experience about judging people based on their jobs." Eleanor's face contorted with rage. "I will not. Do you know who I am?" "Yes," James replied calmly. "You're the mother-in-law of our owner, who has left strict instructions. If you don't wish to comply, you're welcome to leave, though the next flight out isn't for 3 days." Chaos followed. Eleanor threatened lawsuits, demanded phones which mysteriously had no signal, and even tried to arrange a private helicopter, all unavailable by my orders. For the next 2 weeks, the mighty Eleanor Anderson served drinks to her own family, wearing the staff uniform she'd often mocked. Each time she delivered a cocktail, her server badge gleamed with her name, Eleanor, trainee. But this isn't just a story about revenge. On their last day, I arrived at the island. Eleanor was serving at the beach bar, her designer clothes replaced by the simple staff uniform, her carefully maintained appearance wilted in the tropical heat. "Having fun?" I asked, sitting at the bar. She stared at me, her anger seemingly replaced by exhaustion. "Why did you do all this?" "Because you needed to learn that worth isn't determined by background or bank accounts," I replied. "Every person who served you a drink, cleaned your room, or cooked your meals is a human being deserving of respect." Tears formed in her eyes. "I never thought about it that way." "I know," I said softly. "That was the problem." From that day onward, Eleanor Anderson was a transformed woman. The experience of walking in someone else's shoes truly changed her perspective. She went on to establish a foundation that provides educational scholarships for service industry workers, and she finally learned to respect people regardless of their job or background. Nowadays, our family dinners are different. Eleanor engages with the serving staff about their lives and dreams. She remembers their names and stories. Last Christmas, She even insisted on serving dinner herself, saying it helps her stay grounded. The Royal Pearl Resort? It's still mine, but now it features a unique program where privileged individuals can experience working in service roles. Eleanor helps manage it, sharing her story as a cautionary tale about prejudice and pride. As for David and me, we still enjoy our morning coffee at the same shop where we met. Sometimes Eleanor joins us, chatting easily with the baristas she once might have ignored. She's learned that true character is revealed in how you treat those you once considered beneath you. Last week, she surprised me with a handmade photo album filled with pictures from that infamous island vacation. On the last page, she'd written, "Thank you for teaching me that the best view of life comes from getting off your high horse." I keep that album in my office at the resort. A reminder that sometimes the greatest luxury isn't about thread counts or private jets. It's about recognizing the worth in every person you encounter. And Eleanor still works one shift a month at the beach bar. She says it keeps her humble.